One of the best things that FNaF World does right is giving the player access to almost 50 different characters to play around with. To take down bosses, you can build some pretty powerful teams and some pretty terrible ones. But what if every character on your team was a decrepit pirate fox with an unhealthy obsession with cheese? A lot of cheese. This means fighting every enemy, every boss, everything with Foxy the pirate. This, due to popular demand, is the Foxy only run. As always, we start in Fazbear Hills with just two characters, Foxy and Mangle. And if you want to argue that Mangle isn't a Foxy, he most definitely is. Anyway, Foxy has three moves that we can look at: Hot Cheese, Jump Scare, and Hook. Hook does barely damage at all, Jump Scare can stun enemies but not that long on bosses, and Cheese, which will put down some constant damage that lasts quite a while, and is the most important part of Foxy's kit. Mangle, however, is a little bit more interesting. She has the move Poppers, which is an okay damage dealer, but it takes 3 uses to work, so in the end it ends up being the worst damage dealer in the game. They also have Hook, which again, low damage, but most importantly, they have Prize Ball too, which will use a random move. This can be incredibly powerful because you can roll something like Buffs, you can roll something like Constant Damage, and this would also be the only way we'd ever be able to access heals on a Foxy run. Okay, long-winded character explanation out of the way. The first thing we need to do is get up some cash. Usually in these challenges, we go to the lolbit store and buy bytes which will do damage for us. But we couldn't complete fights since Hook didn't do enough damage and Poppers and Hot Cheese didn't have enough time to fully work. Luckily, Fazbear Hills gives us some chests, which we can grab for some easy money. We could then use that to buy some insects. These bytes can do a nice chunk of damage to enemies, and through the first few areas would actually be stronger than most of our party members. There are also 2 mini-bosses located around the map we can easily take down to grab the buffs behind them, which will also need to progress. Unfortunately, the first time that I tried this, we weren't able to do enough damage before he killed us. To fix this, all I had to do was grind for some Fazgrones real quick. I could get some med bites which would heal us progressively as the fight went on, which should make the fight a lot easier to do. So we meet again, Pine Face. You know how many times I've beaten this guy? I should hate him, but he's so enigmatic. B-Bites do thingamajig, Hot Cheese does thingamajig, and it all comes together. Boom, okay. You know, I should probably look up what enigmatic means, because I have no idea. Make sure I'm not saying something to get me cancelled. Okay, let's get this done quick. Nice. Behind both these bosses is a couple of chips, which will buff your team in different ways. The trade-off being that there are only 4 that you can equip at a time, but there are some pretty fun combos. To be honest, the most difficult thing to remember is which one's a chip and which one's a byte. Funnily enough, if this was a food game instead of a FNaF game, you wouldn't have to change the names. Just a fun fact for you there. Leaving Choppy's Woods with 3 new chips, we can immediately head into the best area of the game, Dusting Fields. I have said that sentence so many times, but what's not to like? Dead trees, a free chip that does absolutely nothing, and quite possibly the most annoying boss in the entire game. This is our next boss, Bouncer, and fighting with just 2 characters is a bit of a doozy. You see, Bouncer has 2000 health and around a 150 attack, but his big kicker is the fact that he has the move Snowball, which will Gatling gun our entire team down to low health. I wasn't super hopeful the first time going in, so I went in for the first time just to get a gauge of how difficult he'd be. We have to go past you, you're useless, and Bouncer feels possible, like, unless he snowballs us. He snowballs us. That's a lot of damage. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The reason we couldn't get that far in Bouncer is because Hot Cheese and Prize Ball just didn't do enough damage. We could try to go for another character, but these are the only ones that we have left to unlock. With the Nightmare and Funtime were all in later areas and we couldn't get them, which left Phantom Foxy and Phantom Mangle. I decided to look up the encounter rates of each of these characters in the areas that we had unlocked since I couldn't remember them from last time, which was a fun experience. Okay.
Say,
okay, no
chica,
offense, I am
higher.
going
So
to skip
angel,
forward a
no,
little.
as a big roll is
Oh,
too
too
off.
far. Backwards.
Between that is 9x.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know how far along. Not angry at the guy making this video, it's just I'm looking for a needle in a haystack here. Ugh. Eventually, me having enough patience to actually watch a normal video without having to skip forward, I was able to find the right number, which was around 5% for each of the characters, which meant that we would have to do battle after battle after battle until we encountered them. And eventually, we did manage to encounter our animatronic. I don't know why I'm blacking them out. It's not exactly hard to guess which one this is when your options are Phantom Foxy or Phantom Mangle. Who is it? It's Pikachu! Oh, Phantom Mangle. Yoink. Oh, good lord, your moveset is beautiful. Phantom Mangle had two beautiful moves that we could use to do damage over time and big hits. His middle move randomized our party, which clearly we couldn't use since we're trying to go Foxy only. And the damage boost manages to push us just over the line to beat Bouncer. Let's go. On we go through the lake of lily gear. But beforehand, we go to the next character. So if we just keep running away from fights constantly and constantly, we should technically get... Or we could get him first try. That works. Hello. Yippee doo dah. I'm just gonna cut that out. Now that we had Phantom Foxy, we actually had a pretty decent team stacked up. Unfortunately, the only two areas that we really had access to were Black Tomb Yard and Lily Gear Lake. There were two optional bosses that we could take on, but they didn't really give us anything towards our next major boss. One of them is Mad Endo, an optional boss that gives you the Find Characters chip, something we very much wanted. I'll give you a wild guess what stat it buffs. But since we couldn't take on Mad Endo yet, we were forced to grind for characters the long way. Eventually, after around 30 minutes, we were finally able to encounter In the amount of time that it took us to get Withered Foxy, we managed to get an entire 10 different characters. Luckily, he was worth it as he did have a pretty good moveset. And now it was time to take on Mad Endo. But I said we only had 2 areas available. Well, if we walk down here in Black Tomb Yard, there's something that looks like the entrance to a cave, and you'll never guess what it is. Turns out it is the entrance to a cave. What? This area here is Deep Metal Mine. Now, technically this isn't the only area called this. This is the area where we currently are, and this area as well is also called Deep Metal Mine. And then on top of that, they have sub areas. For instance, these areas all don't connect to each other and have their own paths. They each have their own bosses, chips, and even a secret ending hidden behind them. And yes, I know, this is some of the worst masking I've ever done in my life. But when we walk up in this area of the cave, that's when the Mad Endo fight will start. Annoyingly, even with all these characters, we still end up losing. Luckily, it was a case of being pretty close, and since there is a decent amount of RNG involved, we just keep doing the fight over and over until we can eventually clear it. And this will give us the Find Characters chip, which would finally allow us to find characters a lot quicker.
Man, I sure am detecting now. I'm a detective with the chip. I'm a detective. Oh, what's that over there? I'm a Foxy.
If we do want to stop messing around, however, and actually progress through the game, if we progress the other way down Deep Metal Mine, we can find this gravestone. And all you have to do to get to the next area is simply walk right through it. Unfortunately, my recording cut out this part for some reason, and I actually ended up doing this before we even took on the Mad Endo boss. That's how I have these bytes that do a lot of damage. In fact, this isn't even a voiceover. I'm just re-recording the footage right now. Anyway, when we get to Pinwheel Circus, almost immediately we can encounter Nightmare Foxy, who according to this random tier list that I found on a random Reddit page, is considered one of the best characters. So thank you Tonic the Hedgehog for backing me up on this one. He's not that hard to kill, and now we had Nightmare Foxy on our team, and he had a decent moveset, an upgraded hot cheese, an upgraded basic attack, and a chance to straight up insta-kill. The only problem, however, is next to Nightmare Foxy, Withered Foxy looked like his underpowered little brother. But both of them are going to be essential against our next boss, Browboy. Browboy had the ability to one-shot any of our party members no matter what, and clearing him definitely wasn't going to be easy. And you want to know how we get the buffs to clear him? We go fishing. You see, back in Fazbear Hills, there's an extra shop called DD's Fishing Hole, which allows you to fish for different amounts of Faz coins. I know, it's amazing. Each of the fish here have different tiers of Faz coins, with the top ones giving you 1 all the way down to 50 Faz coins at the bottom. Plus there's the bonus of the Pearl, which will give you 100 Faz coins if you get it. So I spent a decent time fishing until I had around 1500 Faz coins. This is just enough to get a single bite, but it also happens to be the best in the game, and with that we could take on Browboy.
Phantom Foxy with the absolute clutch of the century.
And with that, we clear, quite possibly, our biggest barrier in this entire challenge. Immediately after beating Bubba, we can head up into this area, where if we walk into this specific tent, going into it will take us to a sub-area of Pinwheel Circus. This is the last endgame area and will allow us to unlock all the boss fights. It's basically just a maze of tents where every time you go into one, it will teleport you to a different area of that map. It's very confusing, and if you haven't played the game before, or don't know a map of how everything connects, it can get a bit weird, but there's a fairly straightforward path, and usually people just use this area to walk around grinding characters. Now, all we have to do is do one thing. After this, I thought we had to take on Bubba, but no. We get fun time for a fun time. After we beat Bubba, I started cycling through fights in this area. By constantly running away from fights, we can keep rolling the character encounter chance until we get what we're looking for. Unfortunately, we're looking for one of the rarest characters in the game, but also arguably the most powerful one. If you exclude all the Update 2 characters added in a later Halloween update that do crazy damage, like this dude can just straight up one-shot any boss in the game, the character with the highest DPS, highest HPS, and I'm pretty sure that's not a term, but it is now, and a move that can straight up revive an entire team, it's Funtime Foxy. Oh boy, does it get weird from here. You can only encounter them in the mine section of Pinwheel Funhouse, but since we have the Find Characters chip, this becomes a lot easier to do. Funtime Foxy is essential to this challenge because this would be completely impossible without them. Okay, another... Oh, it's just this guy. Unfortunately, I don't see us getting Funtime Foxy within half an hour. It's... like... we may have to be here for a while, even with the Find Characters chip. It's a stupid amount of time that it takes to get this here. What? Again, dude. I did it again. Thank God we don't have to sit there for that long. Now that we had Funtime Foxy, it was time to move on to the late game. Oh shoot, I forgot to put chapter segments. Oh god. Chapter 2, guys. Yippee. The next thing we could do is take on the next boss, Bubba. Now here I usually talk about his health, his damage, yada yada yada, but Funtime Foxy makes this fight completely free. His move gift boxes not only revives all allies, but if there is an ally already alive, it will spawn the box waiting for them to die. And the next time they take enough damage to drop them to 0 HP, it will just get rid of the box and instantly bring them back to full HP. Meaning you can just keep spamming this move, and as long as you aren't attacked quick enough, you can just keep reviving over and over. So he's a fairly easy clear, and the next boss we have to face, Porkpatch, is a fairly similar story. To get to him, first we have to go through this tent, then along here there's a false wall that we walk through, and after walking into this rock, you will see, whoa, where the hell is this thing? This is a sub area, a main part of the story towards FNaF world, and usually when you're teleporting between different areas, you have to go through something. This. The gravestone that we walked through in Deep Metal Mine that took us to Pinwheel Circus also has this. The only reason it didn't show up is I'm using the FNaF World Quality of Life mod, which removes things like this. All we have to do is just walk around for a while until we find the exit, and this will spit us out at our next boss, Porkpatch. Usually, again, I talk about his moveset, but we don't have time for that. Funtime Foxy does all the work for us, and even though it takes a while, there's nothing we really need to worry about because no matter how long it takes, we can just keep reviving over and over. This is why Funtime Foxy pisses me off, or any gift boxes character realistically. As soon as you get a gift box characters, the next 3 bosses become relatively easy. Luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, the next few bosses are actually a lot harder, and gift boxes won't just be able to get us through them. Defeating the Porkpatch boss gave us a key which allowed us to unlock 3 new boss fights. These each have a different mechanic that we have to face in different ways, and they were the final 3 that we had to take down before we could take on the last bosses. First up we have Snowcone, a boss that has the exact same model as Bouncer. His special mechanic is his array of attacks. On top of Snowball bringing us down to 1 shot, he can do poison damage, stun us, kill us if we're below 30% health, which combos really well with Snowball, and Escape Key, which has a 50% chance to just straight up kill each party member. There's no gimmick or catch, it's just if he uses it, half of your team will die. His only saving grace is his health is quite low compared to the other 2, and if we can beat him before he manages to get all his moves off, we should be fine. Which is why Nightmare Foxy comes in handy, being able to dish out a nice chunk of damage. And with the right timing, Funtime Foxy can consistently heal us as well. And since we got very lucky with Snowcone not rolling any of his moves for a while, we were able to clear this fight fairly easily. The next boss is a lot harder. This is Supergoon, and while his health is not the worst thing in the world, he one-shots almost all of our party members and attacks ridiculously fast. The only reason we are able to make it through first try is by some miracle, Supergoon refused to target Funtime Foxy. So that's 2 of the 3 done. The last one is by far the hardest though. Mad Endo has a rapid attack speed, really high health, and he's just annoying in general. And this time we can't even get past halfway. Yeah, you hear that guys? Funtime Foxy doesn't clear it. There's still some challenge left. So what we needed now was a lot of damage. Not a small amount or a slight increase, we needed a planet killer. And that's what we got in the form of Boss Drain X. This nightmare fuel can do so much damage per second that it was banned from visiting at least 50 different countries. But how does one obtain such power? How everything gets solved in the world. Money. Unfortunately, fishing isn't gonna cut it this time. Unless of course I want this video to release in a couple of months, we need to find a faster method. If we go up to this section of Pinwheel Funhouse, we can try to find a secret boss. This boss drops a lot of Faz coins and is the main source of grinding after you beat Bubba. Now Scott has already used the Endo model for several boss fights in the game and needed to come up with something new. So you know what we got? Recolored Endo. Yeah. Gold Endo will spawn if we keep reloading menus in this area. And even though the fight is fairly difficult because of his also high attack speed, it's not too hard to kill him and get some easy cash. And we can keep chaining this too. So a little while later, we can rack up just enough gold to afford Boss Drain X. Now even with the power of the sun in my hand, it still wasn't enough to kill Overclock. Even though we were doing a lot more damage now, we still took all the damage we did before. And he would kill us before we could get off enough damage. If only there was a way to fix this. There's a couple minor buffs that chips can give us, but specifically the defense boost could theoretically bring Endo's attack down just enough for us to survive more hits. Since we take 50% less damage with a defense boost, the around 400 base attack becomes around 200, which is just enough to survive for most of our party members. So if we go into a different cave, fight a boss easier than the starter enemies, we can get this chip. And with the chip equipped, finally we could start doing something decent against Endo. Funtime Foxy had enough time to fully heal, as long as we got good enough RNG where he wasn't targeted constantly. Nightmare Foxy could dish out large chunks of damage along with Boss Drain X, and the others were kind of useless, but Hot Cheese did something, I guess. And eventually, we can clear the fight, and that is the last Guardian down. We can step on all the switches that are behind each of them, and this opens the way for the last 2 bosses. So if we head back into Pinwheel Circus, and all we have to... No, this can't be. Let me in! So since I forgot a switch, we can just head back to Fazbear Hills to get the free switch that is guarded by absolutely nothing. Then we can take on the second last boss, Security. Now, the security fight is usually quite tough. He boasts quite a large 100,000 health, which is the highest in the entire game, but it's his main mechanic that makes him so tough. He has the move Alarm, which will insta-kill 5 characters on our team without any warning. Now, normally the only way to stop this is if you have any of the Endos, they have the move Neon Wall, which will stop the alarm attack from doing any damage. It also reduces damage by 50% and is one of the most overpowered moves in the game. Now, obviously, we can't use the Endo, so we have to do something else. Luckily, we can use the magic of red chips. You see, all around the map, there are hidden red chips that give overpowered buffs. Something like a large amount of constant damage, or it could just be something like, And if we wanted to get the one we needed, if we headed down to Choppy's Woods, this specific stump here, if we walk into it, it will kick us above the map. I'm not sure if this has any significance on the story, but, lore. Anyway, when we get to the very top, we can grab the auto shield chip, then we can run all the way back and exit the area. And this is really all we needed to take on Security. Since his basic attack is so much slower than Funtime Foxy's moves, we can literally never die since gift boxes would revive before he could get another attack off. And this becomes the easiest fight in the entire game. Let's go. 1 left. 1 more. And finally, it was time to take on Scott Cawthorn. There was no more gimmicks, no more buffs. All we had to do now was take him on once and for all.
We're not going to sit through the entire speech. Let's get right to the good stuff.
Mole.
Yo, we did it. Yeah. And now I gotta edit this in like 20 days. Hi, this is Slushy from Post. This did not take 20 days to edit. I'm not editing an ending thing because I do not have time. This took so long. I'm so sorry. It did not mean to take 50 days. It was supposed to take like 20, not 50. Oh my god. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go quickly finish this up. Ah!